Welcome, listeners, to www.ironradio.org, the website and podcast for all things strength sports and sports nutrition. With your hosts, Lonnie Lowery.
Remember, Phil is like a gnarled old oak tree held together with scar tissue and bone spurs.
Rob Fortney.
And I'm telling you, the pain that I would suffer was beyond excruciating.
And Phil Stevens.
Do it, Rob. You'll kill all those nerves.
Thanks for listening. Welcome, listeners, to IronRadio.org. This is Lonnie Lowery. I'm an exercise physiology and sports nutrition professor of about 15 years, and I'm a former competitive bodybuilder.
And this is Phil Stevens. I'm a powerlifter, Highland Games athlete. I run Strength Guild, the Barbell Open, which starts next week. So if you haven't gone there and signed up, do it now, barbellopen.com. And, just a bunch of other things.
Right on. So how's that coming? I mean,
it's going good. I mean, I think it's like anything. It's not going to be, gigantic in year one. I think it's one of the things. You get it in, you get it done, you go to the next year, and it'll be good.
I actually think that's best. I mean, we had an obesity conference last year, and I want to do this like an annual thing, not always about obesity, different topics, but the point is having a dry run year, you hammer down a lot of things. So then as things grow, that certain things are in place. Like with you, it might be, I don't know, some unforeseen glitch about reviewing the videos or,
or anything.
Anything. Yeah, just get stuff in place.
Yep, we just got it, exactly. That was the deal. It was like, let's just do it and see what happens. So, it'll be good. We've got some good lifters signed up, so
cool.
It'll be fun to see how it goes.
Okay, let's see. I've got two little bits of news, and then everyone today, Phil and I, it's just going to be us. We're going to talk about two-a-days, lifts, that is. We're going to talk about some of the demands on the body. There's some gender differences, potentially. We'll talk about the requirements, maybe. Like nutrient timing, I think, starts to take center stage a bit more when you got to go at it again the same day. And not everybody can do this, but I'm actually going to play with this myself this fall, I think, at roughly 6 a.m. before work, and then maybe around 6 p.m. after work. So we'll talk about two-a-days. But first, a little bit of news here.
Strength and muscle sport news.
This first bit of news is from technologynetworks.com. It's just one of the things I got on one of those, the news feeds that come to my mailbox here. But this is mostly British-based, and I know we have quite a few listeners from the UK. This is called Raw Eggs Deemed Safe to Eat. And the first thing that jumped into my mind with this is, of course, you're constantly hearing back and forth from food service professionals and that sort of thing. Protein foods always seem to be what's in the limelight for contamination. But the truth is, I've actually known dietitians that specialize in food service and whatnot, and they would talk about how actually fruits and vegetables are more commonly the source of foodborne illness, believe it or not. So anyway, raw eggs deemed safe to eat. This was just published here. A report published by the Advisory Committee on the Microbiological Safety of Food, the ACMSF, into egg safety has shown a major reduction in the risk from salmonella in UK eggs. So it says, responding to the report that the Food Standards Agency, the FSA, has launched an 8-week consultation reviewing the advice given to consumers on eating lightly cooked or raw eggs. So, let's see. Professor John Koya, chair of the ACMSF expert ad hoc group on eggs, said the committee has found that there has been a major reduction in the risk from salmonella in UK hens' eggs since 2001. It's recommended that these eggs could be served raw or lightly cooked to both those in good health and even those in more vulnerable groups. At present, the FSA's advice to consumers is that eating raw eggs, eggs with runny yolks, or any food that has uncooked or slightly cooked or lightly cooked eggs may cause food poisoning in vulnerable groups. But again, this new advice is sort of countering that. And they're taking comments right now. So I used to actually put a raw egg in protein shakes and that sort of thing. The closest I think I get with this is almost universally make whole eggs like over easy, so the yolk is still sort of runny, dip toast in it and stuff like that. I don't know, Phil, do you ever eat anything partly cooked, like egg type stuff?
Yeah, definitely eggs. I mean, I guess, what do you, sunny side up or whatever, And I've never had an issue. I've eaten raw eggs, but you're talking to the guy that drank the water in Thailand for like 3 months straight and didn't know. I never had an issue. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, with the eggs, I've always heard that the issue is less the egg itself and more on the shell. Is where you're going to get stuff from.
Yeah.
So it's making sure you wash your hands and things like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to spare everybody some of the gory details. Apparently there's some standards. This reduced risk is especially true for eggs produced under the Lion Code or equivalent schemes. I don't even know what that means. Maybe that's more common knowledge in Britain. But and I'm curious if this is paralleled here in the States. But you've got to think there's a lot of standards coming down for eggs, coffee. There's a lot of these regulations, and I know people have different thoughts on how much the government should interfere, and regulate these sorts of things. But yeah, like you, and I bet there's a lot of lifters who just, eggs are one of the things I think over the years I've seen lifters of all types consistently defend. You hear people come out and say, oh, no, it's got saturated fat, or, there's even some crap out years ago that X number of eggs was equivalent to smoking cigarettes and things like that. And I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
And the other thing was always salmonella. I always heard about like E. coli from beef and salmonella that was the bug in eggs. And as it turns out, like I said, it would shock a lot of people. And I don't have a reference for this. Someone can correct me. But that actually there's a lot of produce, fruits and vegetables that are also definite sources of foodborne illness. And like you said, whether it's shells or how it's handled, there's so many things that are part of this. But yeah, apparently there's been a big reduction over the last 15 years in salmonella in raw eggs. And again, that's in Britain. I'm not speaking for all parts of the world. I know we got listeners from all over, but I'm betting there's something similar in the U.S. But anyway, yeah, raw eggs in the news. This next one, Phil, I know you're a dog lover. You've got they're Mastiffs, right? Your rescues. We're big-time dog lovers here, and this caught my eye, too, because you're always hearing about ways to reduce cortisol for lifters, like different supplements. There's different drugs like aminoglutathamide, not consuming too much coffee, especially on like recovery days and things like that. But dogs may be a source of reduced stress. I'm sure that I have read before, maybe on air, that sleeping with your pooch, you get deeper sleep. So instead of something like zinc magnesium supplements, which probably help a little, sleep with your pooch. Now, some people are grossed out by that. I totally am not. But anyway, so this is about stress in particular. Now, they looked at families that had learning disabled kids in them, specifically autistic. And I have a nephew with autism, and I can tell you that creates a huge stressor on the caregivers and that sort of thing because, you love the family member, but boy, they can be a lot of work and create stress. I mean, so that's sort of the focus of this. It's called Could Dogs Be the Solution to Stress by Brenda Kelly Kim. This is through labroots.com. Let's see. This is spanking new stuff. There are many reasons to own a dog, not the least of which is the compatibility and the companionship that they offer. And you know what? In fact, let me offer a sidebar here. There is a great, I think it's in episode 2 of the new Cosmos with Neil deGrasse Tyson. Being a nerd like that, I bought that series, and he talks about how it's no coincidence why humans and dogs are best friends. We've artificially selected them, and even in the early phases of human-dog interactions, the cutest ones and the ones that sort of didn't bite the hand that fed, those are the ones that got naturally chosen to eat more and then pass on their genes to their offspring, all that sort of stuff. So it's really no coincidence that after thousands of years, humans and dogs are so compatible. But it says they're good company, and owning one has been shown in numerous studies to alleviate stress, improve mood, and sometimes even lower blood pressure. Apparently there was a study conducted at the University of Lincoln in England, so I guess this is sort of the UK show here from the news. It was funded by a U.S. foundation, the Human Animal Bond Research Initiative, the HABRI. They have to make all these things into acronyms. Yeah. But it says, while the study involved humans, it was published in the American Journal of Veterinary Behavior. It's only one of a number of research studies that the HABRI is funding, all of which deal with the effect of having an animal on various aspects of human health. It says there's been studies in the past on therapy dogs, of course, but that's not what this is. This is just having sort of a pooch, what I would call family member, right? Our vet, when we first got our chocolate lab, he said, is Precious going to be a family member or just sort of a dog that's around the house and, or, you know, outdoor dog or whatever? And we said, no, I would say family member in that regard, you know. But, so yeah, this is not service dogs or anything special like that. Let's see, it says, the results show owning a pet dog rather than a specifically trained assistance dog can considerably improve the function of the whole family unit. We found a significant relationship between parenting stress, again, of the autistic child, of the caregiver, and the attachment to a family pet. This latest research, followed up families 2.5 years later to see if the benefits, the anti-stress benefits, were still there, and the answer was a resounding yes. So it says Stephen Feldman, executive director of the HABRI, stated that parents of children with autism can experience increased anxiety and stress, and now we have strong scientific evidence to show that pets have a positive effect on quality of life under these stressed situations. So, I don't know, good stuff. Like I said, I know we're both dog people, and I don't know how many listeners have dogs, but we talk so much about, honestly, popping pills and powders to reduce cortisol, and I think maybe we forget that there's something so obvious right there that can help.
Yeah, dogs are great. I mean, we have, what do we have? We have 4 of them right now. 4 huge dogs.
Oh, you have 4?
Yeah. So
I thought you had 2. Oh.
No, we have 4. So and the lightest one's like 150. So we have 4 massive dogs, and yeah, they're a pain in the butt, but they're great at the same time, you know. And they're good with the kids, and you know, just extra companions. But yeah, 2 of them sleep in our room, and then the other 2 have their own other place to sleep. But
yeah. Precious is old now. She's over 14. That's old for a lab. You know, people are always saying, "Oh, she's so pretty. You know, what a beautiful dog." She still looks really good, and sometimes I think it's almost a reflection of, like, we're not scraping whole Big Macs into her dish. You know what I mean? The kind of food that she probably eats. We don't restrict things. I was just sharing a Pop-Tart with her this morning, you know. Yeah. But it's more like she gets a lot of healthy stuff. Kelly actually gives her a little nutrient gruel in the morning. She gives her some salmon, and then later we actually give her some glucosamine. There's like little beef-flavored glucosamine tablets because, you know, labs get that dysplasia in their hips. Yeah. And that kind of stuff. But yeah, she's still looking good, but we're actually sleeping down on the couch with her a lot because she's not going up and down the stairs quite as much as before, and I don't want her to feel stranded, sort of, you know. Which one of your pooches was, I think he might have been abused, or he was very tentative. You had to lay down to meet when you met him.
Oh, Bradley. Bradley, he's probably the easiest one to get along with, but he's scared of anybody at first who's standing up because he was highly abused, so. Yeah. If you sit down or lay down, he'll come up to you, and then he's okay.
And he's so massive, it's kind of intimidating. You know, some people are intimidated by dogs, but yeah, you realize that he's so sensitive and sweet that you got.
He got chased away by a little wiener dog came into the building and chased him out, and he's just deathly afraid, like, oh my God. And yeah, he's 170 pounds, but
yeah,
he has no idea he's that big. So
right. Well, you know, to me, dogs are similar in many ways to children. You know, if you own a cat, you kind of co-inhabit with a cat. I'm not sure you have a cat like the cat is the child necessarily. Maybe sometimes. But to me, at least with our pooch, she's very childlike. You know, and I think you get that feel-good feeling just caring for her, you know. Or like with your pooch, with Bradley, you know, just being sweet to him. I think that kind of it brings out some of those good feelings. Probably, I don't know what's going on in your body, opioids in your brain, or reduced cortisol or whatever. But yeah, it's something to think about. You know, that we're so busy on the drugs and supplement side of things that if a dog can reduce anxiety and stress during the day and enhance your sleep, I've heard some interesting things about owning a dog reduces head colds and boosts your immune system. And I don't have a reference for each one of these things, but and I know not everybody's a dog lover, but sometimes, if you do have one, just remember that could be actually a source of recovery. It could be an unthought of source of, workout recovery even,
Yeah.
So, could dogs be the solution to stress? That's all I've got. So let's go to break. It's a little early, but we can go to break here. And when we come back, we're going to talk about two-a-days. There's a lot of things to consider when you're lifting more than once. I think my first exposure to it might have been with football teams that do some of this stuff. But we'll get into that after the break. Hey listeners, this is Dr. Lonnie Lowry. If you've ever had anyone critique you on your protein intake as part of your weightlifting lifestyle, oh, you poor meathead, all that extra protein is going to rot your kidneys or weaken your bones or dehydrate you or give you gout or who knows what. There is a book available. You can simply Google CRC Press and Lowry. And what I've done is reach out to experts all over the world and create a book, a single compendium that you can hold up and say, this is why I consume extra protein. This can be very valuable when you're being quote-unquote educated by various professionals on the topic. There's an enormous amount of literature in this book on the safety, the effectiveness, how protein works in cells, the history of protein and weight trainers, much more. So again, please check out CRC Press and Protein and Lowry. You can just Google that, and I do, full disclosure, I do make a small single-digit royalty on the book, but that's not why I did it. I did it so we can all have something, our particular population, to both defend what we do and to inform our nutrition and our eating. Thanks. Hi, this is Dr. Lonnie Lowry, and on behalf of Phil and Rob, I'd just like to let listeners know that if you love us or you hate us, we'd like you to leave a comment or perhaps vote for us on iTunes. It helps us out quite a bit on the popularity side of things. You can also follow Dr. Lowry, me, on Twitter. It's Lawnman7 on Twitter if you want to do that. We also have a Facebook page, the IronRadio listeners page. So whether it's leaving a comment or voting for us or following us on Twitter or Facebook, that would be fantastic. Also, occasionally Rob or myself will write an article for another website, and Phil will as well. So lots of ways to interact, follow us in other media, and vote for us and keep things going strong on Iron Radio. Thanks.
Like your weekly fix of Iron Radio? In addition to being a popular institute on iTunes, we are also on email. Simply go to www.ironradio.org and sign up for the voluntary email. You'll get a once per week email, no more, that's little more than the show notes and a link to the audio. So go for it.
Hi, everybody. We are back, and like Dr. Lowry said, we're going to talk two-a-days. I've got a lot of this going on right now, and I honestly have it going on all year, but with my varied athletes, because, a lot of times I take the role with high school kids as the strength coach, because most of these schools don't have one. They'll have lifting programs and stuff like that, but there's no actual strength coach in place.
Right.
So, there's no time during the year that I'm not working with some kids that are in season. So, we adjust their lifting to their in season, and they might come train with me in the morning and practice with the team at night, or vice versa. So it's adjusting that schedule, adjusting their lifestyle, and adjusting their lifting to what we're facing. So as far as the team goes, and the other training session of the day.
Exactly. I actually deal with that as a sort of collegiate sports nutritionist. I always have to think about the team practice later.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this, though. What's your opinion about going heavy and intense during both sessions? Or when they've got a really brutal team workout or, something sport specific, do you back off and do lighter, like speed work or something? Or
like if we have a game coming or, a really hard practice coming, then we'll back it off. And I don't need them to. My goal in season is maintain.
Absolutely. Yep.
Is all it is. So we still might go fairly heavy, especially with my football players and stuff. They are notorious for going into the season really strong and leaving it really weak. So we try as much as we can to maintain things. But, my number one job, and this is what I explain to kids when they come in that are multi-sport athletes, it doesn't matter if they can squat 500 pounds if it doesn't show its teeth on the field. My number one job for an athlete is not to make them a good weightlifter. It's to make them better at their sport.
Got to transfer.
So, so whatever I'm doing, it has to transfer to the field. If whatever I'm doing makes them worse, I just failed. So, if I beat them up and make them sore for the game and they play like crap, that's my fault. I can't have that. I need to have them more prepared and better for their games.
Absolutely. So, I'm such a fan of eccentric work, doing negatives and that intensity techniques. Maybe I over-focus on hypertrophy maybe, but you can't be doing a lot of that. I mean, if you're rocked with soreness and you're expected to perform, I imagine it'd be like the cardinal sin that your legs are so rocked, you can't lift your foot and replant it on the football field, so you twist and there goes your ACL. Something like that. Because when you're sore, you're like 15% weaker. I mean, I've seen it in the lab repeatedly. So
yeah.
So let's talk about some of the potential benefits, though. So if you've got clients doing that, why would you encourage that? Like, what would be some of the benefits?
Some of the benefits, well, like with my Olympic weightlifters, a lot of times we'll break their sessions into dynamic work and then strength work. So their first session will come in, it'll be their lifts. By lifts, I mean snatch and clean and jerk, where they have to be very explosive. And then, sure, we could go right into the squat and all the other, for them, squats and presses and things like that are assistance work. But a lot of the time you're going to half-ass that because you just did an hour and a half of snatches and clean and jerks.
Yes.
So, we'll send them home, get a meal or two in, get a nap in if you can, come back tonight. Now we'll hit the assistance work. Now we're able to give more to both by having a break in between.
Right. I can tell you, even with it's less true in bodybuilding, but anything got skill related. Mm-hmm. Yeah, doing it fresh. I've said this before on the podcast, but I used to have an old track coach, and he wouldn't let me pole vault when I was fatigued because he's like, "You're going to start firing the wrong motor patterns," and so the freshness really speaks to that. And I'll tell you, even for the physique people who listen, I remember, and I probably said this at some point in the last 8 years on the show, but I used to work at a gym when I was in college, and I would go squat on the top of the hour, like every hour, and I would get so rocked the next day. Like if I had done them all in a row, I don't think it would have been the same. If that makes any sense, I guess because every time you get into the bar, you're so fresh. And I mean, it wasn't super intensely heavy. I think I was doing like 275 or 315, but when you step under it, the quality of the contractions, I guess, I don't know, maybe that's more art than science, but it just seemed like something was there, some level of effort, even though you're not talking about something as skill-related as a snatch. There's still something about getting under the bar very, very fresh. I don't know.
Well, even mentally, it eases some tension. Because if I hand them a list that's like, okay, here's your 700 things you have to do before you leave. One of two things is going to happen. You're going to half-ass everything so you can make it through there. Or you're going to come out of the gate strong, and then you're going to be shot, and that end stuff is going to, get a half effort. Because you have to. You have nothing left. Yeah. So if we're able to break that up into two sessions, it's mentally not as taxing. Like, oh, okay, I just got to do these 2 or 3 things. And then I get a break. Now I can come back and do these 2 or 3 things. So it's a lot easier on your mind even and the body. So you can give your all.
Exactly. So. Yep. When I switched for many years I did a very traditional bodybuilding split. I would do like push-pull legs, And then when I was done with that, like after the last time I competed, I'm like, I'm going to try more like a whole body circuit type stuff. But you lose the theme day. You know what I'm talking about. Like you feel different on deadlift day than maybe bench day. You know, it's a different flavor. And so by doing it like this, instead of me walking into the gym and saying, "Oh God," I still try to lift fairly heavy. I'm not doing some really light, like lunchtime machine circuit thing here. And when there's that much on your plate, it's almost a little daunting as opposed to, I'm going to go in and do my, like for me, I could go in and do back work in the morning and then do my shoulders and calf work in the evening. Just basically split this. It's just like the old split I used to use, but I'm dividing it out. Now, the cons, though, I think for me at least, and I think people would have to think about this. We're talking about pros and cons, but one con would be I'm actually driving to the gym twice. And if you got weights at home, maybe in the morning you lift at home, and then in the evening you go to the gym. There's some ways around this, I think, because I do have some, just like the kind of power rack uprights, dumbbells, barbell in my basement. But maybe that's one way around that, because I just keep thinking I'm only like 10, 15 minutes from the gym, but you got to think that's going to add up to nearly an hour on the road if I'm going to drive there twice. So maybe one of the two sessions I do it at home. Something like that. But I guess I'm attracted to, if that's a con, if we go back to a pro, you're stimulating, your whole metabolic rate, protein synthesis twice, Now, I haven't seen data. I bet there are data out there, at least people who have asked, do you get the same potency, like in muscle protein synthesis in round 2? I'm not sure about that. Or like if you use caffeine both times. I would think if it's separated by enough time, the caffeine would kick in pretty well both times. But in an evening session, at least for me, I'm not the kind of person who can pop a caffeine pill before I go to the gym at 7 p.m. I might not get to sleep. Some people, it won't matter,
And I know, if we go back to talking about athletes, the Bulgarian teams, they used to really believe in like 3-a-days or 4-a-days. Right. And you talk to their coach and people were asking why. And he's like, well, really the only reason why is it keeps them out of trouble. It's not really better, but now they have no energy for doing anything else.
I didn't realize. That's funny.
He said it's going to keep, basically all they can do is eat and sleep and train because they're so wore out that, they know they got to be back here in 2.5, 3 hours.
Right.
So was there that much more training benefit? Probably not. From that many times a day, but it kept them busy, it kept them out of trouble, and kept them focused on, for them, their quadrant training. 4 years, Olympics is in 4 years. We got to get ready. So you're talking very serious level athletes, and I don't know, maybe it's good for kids too, high school kids and junior high kids. I was a troublesome little guy, and maybe if I knew I had a coach waiting on me twice a day, that I would have done less dumb stuff, but. No, it's good for you. It's discipline. It's things like that. So.
Right. I think it emphasizes the program nature of it all. Like the whole. You're not just in for, like I would tell football players, you're in a football program. That doesn't just mean the time on the field. There's the time in the weight room. There's the time in the cafeteria. There's even time in your dorm when you're sleeping. This is a program. Get with the program. Yes. And I would think that would emphasize that because, like you said, you're back mid-afternoon or whatever it is. And although it's true. I remember I was at, I think it was 98. I was at the first International Congress on Weightlifting and Strength Training. It was in Finland. And they were talking about those 3-a-day type sessions. And I kind of walked away from that thinking sort of what we started this with, which was your nervous system is fresh, or at least pretty fresh every time you walk into a skill-related sport. Olympic lifts, that's some serious skill, and it's a skill I admit I don't have, and so I can see why being fresh could be, a make or break kind of situation with that too. But.
Yeah, like my Olympic lifters, I try and break them. If I see skill deteriorate, they're just done for that day, for that session.
Oh, right.
There's no point. Okay, go home. We're done.
Monitor visually. Yeah,
because you're going to be back here in a few hours, and we can pick up where we left off, and you'll be more fresh again. So there's no point in, like you were talking about with your pole vault coach, if you're starting to practice odd technique, odd form, well, we need to stop because, the more reps we do of that, the more you're going to remember that.
Right. Yeah.
It's all that perfect practice stuff. We want to, so.
Right.
I mean, I might have a list of things we need to get this done, but if it's not there, we're going to push for that. But if rep after rep starts looking bad and they just can't fix it, we'll try and fix it first. If they can't, then we're just done. So.
Yeah. There's that phrase, when you wake up in the morning, it's a whole new day. But in a sense, I mean, if you're having a lousy session, it's possible that later that day you get a fresh start.
Oh, yeah.
You can just try it again. I don't know.
Yeah. So.
What about, before I move into some of the requirements behind this, because it's really demanding, what about powerlifting? Because for me, bodybuilding splits are just about stimulating individual muscles. It's not so much this big coordination and chains of muscles firing to do a specific movement. So, you could focus on chest in the morning and arms in the afternoon or something like that. And it's a little bit more exclusive and separated, But with powerlifting, you're focusing on movements and you're using muscles that you use in the other movements. Like we were talking about before we hit the record button, everybody. I was asking Phil, how could you possibly squat fairly heavy in the morning and then go do max deadlifts in the evening?
Yeah. I'm guessing you wouldn't recommend that, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on the powerlifting? I mean, it's possible, but I mean, maybe not recommended. I mean, for my powerlifters, it's much the same way as Olympic weightlifters. If they have the time to do it 2 days, what we might do is now we're able to look at whatever lift we have on docket that day as an event. Okay, we're squatting. We're going to squat really well, and we're going to push the squat hard, and then you're going to leave. And because you don't have to do anything else, but that's all you got to do right now. I just want you to kill the squat. Mm-hmm. And then you can take off. You can get a break. You can eat. You can rest. And then come back and we'll get that assistance work in. Whatever it is. If it's a weight class lifter that needs to lose weight, we'll do some assistance work and we might put in some conditioning time. If it's somebody looking we're moving them up a weight class, well, we're going to hit the volume now. Whatever. We're able to break it up into higher intensity and lower intensity stuff. That first is the event. Okay, it's squat day. It's like walking up to the squat at a meet. Okay, we need you turned on. The next session, we don't need you that turned on. We just need you ready to work. And you're more fresh because it's hard to hit. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, it's hard to hit 90% deadlifts and then, okay, now I got to do 4 sets of stiff-legged deadlifts and then I got to do this and then I got to do, you're toast. You're mentally toast. Your adrenaline was fired up, and now you're like, I just got to get through this.
Okay.
So having that break between.
This brings up my comment earlier in this episode about gender differences, though. I didn't pull the paper. It's on my hard drive. I got coffee instead of going to get the abstract. But I read a paper that women are better at this than men, that women can do a fairly max effort in the morning, and they can come back in the afternoon and do it again better than the guys. Now, I don't know if that's a nervous system thing. And again, I'm thinking about a single study, and that's not going to be enough to change your practice. But I do know that women are more resistant to muscle damage than men because estrogen is protective against that. I mean, I could do blood work and look at different enzymes in the blood and things like that, and women are not as damaged from an eccentric bout. So it might have something to do with the tissue trauma. I mean, micro trauma, not full-on injury. Maybe nervous system. But so you're, out there in the trenches. Do you see that at all?
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. My girls, my people that handle 2 days best are my females. So
that's interesting.
One of my better weightlifters right now is doing mainly 2 days, and she handles it well. You might be a little wore out when she gets in, but once we get rolling, everything's fine. And weightlifters in a sense are weird. In general, that sport. I mean, I have seen it, and I've talked with other coaches, Jarrell, who we've had on. For some reason, we don't know why yet. The Olympic weightlifters put up their best lifts when they're talking about how horrible they feel. Once you've beat them up to the point of they're almost hamburger, they start hitting PRs, and I don't know why. They get through this very intense program. They're right towards the end of it, and here comes these PRs, and they're talking about nothing this is going to be a horrible day. I'm beat up. I'm sore. I'm tired. I'm this. And then, bam, they hit something they've never hit before.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is yet, but it's a resounding theme. They get late in those training programs, and it all comes together, even though they're not feeling it. it's there. But definitely the ladies, they can handle more volume and more frequency.
Yeah.
And come back and go at a higher level. The guys will do it, but
I never realized that Olympic lifters are best when they're a little salty.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, it's just it always happens. You get them on some intense squat cycle, and they're like, "Oh, I can barely walk," and then they hit a PR snatch.
Yeah.
So,
well, you got to think with those guys, it's a little bit more nervous system dependent and skill dependent than as opposed to like a bodybuilder or a power lifter off season where they're doing the volume and the tissue's just so trashed.
Yeah.
It's just not there.
Yeah, it's definitely it's different with them because it's so dynamic. The tissue I don't think ever gets as beat up. I think your nervous system gets tapped into a lot. But they can train more frequently. I mean, and that's the number one. The two reasons why they can train more frequently is, like a clean and jerk versus a deadlift. It's never going to be that grinding lift. They're more throws than they are lifts.
Yeah.
So you're gonna miss a lift because you didn't throw it up your shoulders. You never had to grind it out like a deadlift and took 10 seconds to get it to your waist.
Yeah.
And there's basically no eccentric portion in Olympic weightlifting.
Exactly. Right.
It's so that soreness is much less. So you can do it more often. You're throwing things up, and then the minute it's up, you drop it. So you don't slowly lower it back down.
We're bouncing back and forth a lot here, but to me, I think some of this, when you said you're monitoring someone, and if the quality of the reps are just kind of going to crap, you might say, get out of here, but I think that something else that might come down to the coaches. If you've got somebody who's like a morning lark versus a night owl, someone who likes to do the heavy stuff in the morning, like I can tell you, I don't know how I'm going to do this fall because maybe I'll update people as I do this, but I'm very curious to do this because I need to increase my frequency. Just because of work and stuff, I feel like there are days that I just miss. I mean, if a dean says, I need you on this committee, we need this stuff done by tomorrow, I can't just blow that off. But if I'm going 2 days, I'll be able to miss an afternoon, and it's not as devastating, because I'm in the gym twice every day almost. So, but I am weak as a baby when I walk in that gym at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And so I think it would be folly for me to do anything other than some hypertrophy work or maybe some speed work with 30 to 50% loads. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I think going heavy and super intense in both sessions, that might be a prescription for disaster. I mean, I know there's the whole thing about, max squat every day that's popular these days and that kind of stuff. But with 2 days, I would think that one session you'd have to decide based on your temperament which one would be the lighter, either hypertrophy or speed work, and then which one's going to be, like you say, the main event.
Yeah, and even with my weightlifters, it's that way. I would prefer to do the dynamic stuff first, and then we hit for them, what's assistance, the squats and the presses and blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
But some people aren't morning people. And, I'm not going to make this non-morning person try and do this very technical, explosive work when they just can't. They're not wired that way. So we'll flip-flop it.
Yeah. I'm sure that I have read research before that on average people are strongest early afternoon.
Yeah.
And that would make sense to me. I've heard some stuff too from some of the, I don't know, not chiropractors, but people that are interested in musculoskeletal stuff, that your intervertebral discs, up and down your spine, they're not quite ready real early in the morning and that kind of thing. So, it might be even safer to do the strength stuff later. But again, I don't know. Maybe people are strong. What are you like, Phil? Were you ever able to do really heavy pulls or lifts in the morning? Or
yeah, I mean, I'm forced to train at 5 a.m. now.
Okay.
Because I just have to.
For yourself.
It's when I have time.
Right, yeah.
And is that my preferred time? No. But you make yourself do what you have to do. So if I had a choice, I'd go in at 10:30 or 11. Now I've been up for, 4.5 hours. I've had a couple of meals, whatever. I've had time to move around. I just feel good. If I had to choose between 5:30 a.m. though, and then 6 or 7 p.m., I would take 5:30 a.m. I am done. By the end of the day, I've always been a morning person.
Yeah. When I can get going, during the summer, I always go back to school, and, I'm not really heavily built, but people always say, God, you look thicker. You've been lifting this summer. And I'm like, I just I get to go in like at noonish,
Yeah.
The gym is dead. I mean, I'm a teacher in the summer, and man, I take advantage of it. And like you say, I am flippin' useless. If you've got a job, and in that sense, I think our jobs are similar, is that you've got to lead a group of people. You've got to be on point. You've got to be sort of loud and projecting, and, you have a lot of responsibility, and you have to be on. And then by the time 7 o'clock rolls around, I suck.
Yeah. I want to eat bonbons and sit on the couch.
Right. It depends. Probably depends. If you've got a desk job or something where you can sort of pace yourself during the day, or you're not, front and center. It probably depends on your job too. But and again, that's why I'm kind of playing with this, because I'm burnt at the end of the day, and early in the morning, I'm using half of my usual weights. So how do I do this? And like I said, in the summer, it's easy. I default to going basically to lift around lunchtime. Like you said, you get up, you got your coffee, you've had breakfast and second breakfast, you're ready to go. And I can't do that a lot of the year. So, that's why I'm going to play around with this. Like I said, I'll maybe make
and I mean, you'd be amazed at how you can adjust and get used to it. Like, I'm used to the morning thing. I still know. I know if I hit this weight for this many reps in the morning, I'm good for better later on. I just know I am.
Oh, that's true.
But I'm still, I'm still doing what I can in that session. I think that's a part that some people forget. It's like it's not always about PRs. It's not always about, doing better than you have before. It's doing the best you can that day. Yeah. If you can do that, you stimulated enough that you're going to make progress. If you just do the best you can in that possible session, be happy and move on.
See, that's good. Yeah, that's good insight from a coach. Like, I know we said that they're separate sessions and you get another fresh start, but you're right. If you're strong this morning at 5 a.m., that is a hint that maybe you can unload later.
Yeah. And I mean, you're still given, it may not be maybe you didn't go to 90% of your best ever, but you went to 90% of your current ability right now. And that's where I think, a lot of these Eastern Bloc people had it right. And even, West Side with what they do. It's not based off that. It's based on what you can do right now. And that's what matters.
Right.
And if you're going to a high percentage of that and keeping good form, we did it. That's all we need to do,
Right.
Because there's so many variables in life. So
I know we've talked about before, like, sometimes people will start getting into program periodization, and that's that rookie, maybe intermediate mistake, I think, where this is where we're at in the cycle, this is exactly what we have to do, and there's no monitoring or visual, check-in with, is the athlete moving that bar fast, or something like that, or with skill, or... Okay, let's switch to requirements for this kind of stuff. I mean, if you are going to turn on protein synthesis twice, ignite your nervous system twice, get your metabolism, your heart rate, respiratory rate kicking twice every day, there's going to be certain requirements. And, of course, we had David Barr and Anthony Ahmad on a few weeks ago, and they were actually questioning a little bit the overstatements that nutrient timing is so critical. Now, the truth is there's a lot to the carbohydrate side of nutrient timing, but I think they're focusing a lot on the protein side too. But I think carbs and protein become in the limelight. They take center stage with this nutrient timing. If you got to lift again later today, right? I mean, if you lift this morning, Phil, and you go in there at 5 o'clock and you hit it pretty hard and you deplete your glycogen stores, you're going to basically, just because of life, throughout today and tonight and tomorrow for breakfast, you're going to do a pretty good job at replenishing your glycogen stores, eating lots of protein, especially you, but you get the point. Lots of food, and it's just going to happen. But if you're going to lift again this afternoon, I would think that you've got to almost start counting a little bit more. Like, I better go get myself.
Yeah, you need to get your eating on point, your resting on point, and things like that. I mean, if you have the lifestyle that allows it, go take a nap, and things like that.
Yeah.
So, so you're ready for that next session. Yeah, for sure. I mean, get some carbohydrates in. It's more than just eating to eat now.
No, that's
you got to
right.
eat to perform later. I don't care if you feel like it when you leave. You need to go get something to eat.
Exactly.
You need to get some rest in. You need to, because you're coming back again, and that's going to help you perform.
It's urgency. There's a sense of urgency that's not there if you're just going to lift tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah.
You know.
So.
Yeah, 100 grams of carbs, or however people do it. You know, I mean, I've heard, we've heard all this before, like 4-to-1 carbs to protein. If you're trying to make some gains, 2-to-1 carbs to protein, or even 1-to-1 carbs to protein if you just want to sort of, you know, stay leaner or what have you. But I would say, yeah, if you're going to lift again later today, you might want to go heavier on that on the carbs. You know, 3 or 4-to-1 on the carbs to protein, just to try to put some ratios on it, I guess. You know, but
I mean, if we break it down to 2-a-days, I mean, I honestly think if everybody could do some sort of 2-a-day, that would be great. But that might be as simple as, you know, you normally train at night. Okay, get your butt out of bed and go for a walk in the morning. You know, it's not really training, but for goodness sakes, our society is not that active anymore. The more you can just move, the better you are. I mean, it's sad that we consider training walking now, but we need to do more of that, you know. And I love my powerlifters, or if anybody comes to me that says they want to lose weight, that's one of the number one things I do. You need to get out and just walk more.
Yeah,
you know, 2 or 3 times a day. Go on your lunch. Sure, take your 10, 15 minutes to cram your lunch and now walk. You know, it's not something hard. Just walk.
Well, my wife and I actually do that. You know, like Kelly doesn't lift, but we'll get up. We get up at 4:45. You know, and we'll go out for like I don't know, just a 30 or 45-minute walk before we do things. Like once I start lifting in the morning, I might just go straight to the gym. But like you said, it's easy to poo-poo it. Like, oh, it's not really exercise. I don't really need to do that. But I just think orthopedically, or, you know, I do that fasted. So I feel like in a way I'm reminding my body how to burn body fat, you know, instead of being in a high insulin, high blood sugar state all the time. Because I do still eat a lot like I always have, like, you know, every 2 or 3 hours you're back at it. And so that's the one time in the morning where your blood sugar and your insulin is kind of lower, and you have a chance to remind your body, hey, burn some fat. And like you said, I've seen powerlifters do that even when they were trying to bulk up, they would take that little period just to burn some fat, remind their body how to burn fat, and then get back at their bulking procedures or whatever later in the day. But it's true, and it's the same thing with the second session. Whatever session is the lighter session, you don't blow it off either. You know, like we were saying, it's a program. You can't be like, no, I did my heavy stuff. Yeah, I'll just blow off the second one because it would have been light anyway. That's the temptation, I think.
Yes, but I mean, we are amazing creatures that are built to move. You know, and when you start not moving, that's when things go wrong. It's like the best thing I did was, 7-8 years ago, I moved to a stand-up desk. Basically, I wake up and I don't sit down until night, you know, and I just move around. And it took a little while to get used to, but I feel better. I move better. You know, we have all these arms and legs and joints to use them, not to sit down all day. And the more you sit down, the more they lock up, man. So if you can just get and move, it doesn't have to be crazy, you know, just move.
Yeah. And, you know, that might be good advice for someone if you're like intimidated by the 2-a-day concept. Yeah, maybe one of your sessions is you just start with that walk so you kind of get the behavior down. Like, nope, morning and then evening, or morning then afternoon. Even if the morning is just a brisk walk, you know, or a light jog or something like that.
Yeah, and then move into, you know, morning is hard work, afternoon is just technique, just flat out technique. Things like that. So that second session doesn't have to be a killer session for it to do good. And people forget that. Yeah. You know, that adds up.
Well, you know, Phil,
like the walking adds up.
Yeah, talking to you, I really learned, I think, that like hypertrophy work, like you talk about it like it's mid-intensity, you know, and it is. I think you talk to a lot of bodybuilders, there's a lot of hyperbole in magazines, you know, like blow the doors off and, you know, sirens and, you know, adrenaline. And it's like, well, that's your bodybuilding. So, you know, if you're too intense, meaning too much weight on the bar, you're not going to get enough volume in, you know. So it's just interesting to see your perspective because, I mean, working in a 90% of your 1-rep max range like a lot of powerlifters will do in heavy cycles or whatever, that makes sense to me. That's freaking intense, you know. But what the bodybuilders are doing is more punching the clock, if you think about it, doing sets at 8 to 12. And I know, of course, bodybuilders do some heavy work. Sure they do, you know, but it doesn't have to be super heavy both sessions, I would think. You know.
No. And probably shouldn't be.
No, right. That's right. I think if you look at the textbook approach, like if you look in some of the strength conditioning textbooks, they'll talk about like if you're going to do an upper-lower split, maybe you go heavy legs and then lighter upper body, and then the next time you work out, it's flipped, or you're trying to strategically plan where you're going to apply your resources, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was good.
Yeah, it just dawned on me the other day that we never really talked about two-a-days specifically. Yeah. We probably touched on it before, but like you said, whether it's athletes, because team sport athletes, they've got different requirements. Bodybuilders, powerlifters. We didn't even talk about Highland Games guys, but I would think in some ways they've got some element of skill, like the throwers are going to have an element of skill like the Olympic lifters, and so you can't always do that when you're fatigued. There's some things you got to think about there, but I guess the number one thing for me is I'm interested in, can I accelerate gains by doing this? Because you're literally just in there more.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll catch up with everybody next week.
Until next week.
Hey listeners, have you seen the store at IronRadio.org? There are 3 halls in the store, one for Phil, one for Fortress, and one for myself, Dr. Lowry, and they're thematic. So you can go into our Halls of Iron store and choose based on your goal. If you need something to learn or read or something nutritional, you can look in my store, Lonnie's store. If you want something about injury prevention or competition, then take a look at Phil's Hall of Iron. And if you want something about motivation or daily training, Fortress's Hall has what you're looking for. There are some fun, heroic descriptors as you browse through the stores. We try to make it a little more fun than the average boring online store. And whether you're a novice lifter or someone more experienced, you can take heart that you're not wasting your time. The things that we put in each Hall of Iron are actually based on our own recommendations. Protein powders that we know to be good, knee sleeves, wraps of some kind, things that Fortress uses in his own training. The stuff you see, is good. This way you don't waste time. So check out the Iron Radio store at ironradio.org and let us know what you think on the forums, and certainly you can request products and we will screen them before they go in. So thanks for listening. Iron Radio is accepting donations. If you like what we do, the professors, the scientists, the bodybuilding show promoters, the athletes themselves in powerlifting and bodybuilding, please consider making a donation or maybe buying something from the ironradio.org store. We also are accepting supporting members. So for $4 a month, which is frankly less than the bank sneaks out of your account in fees, you can step up and support a form of sort of public radio for the bodybuilding and powerlifting and strength community. The Iron Radio podcast and all of the audio on ironradio.org is for informational purposes only. If you're interested in starting a diet or exercise program, it's important to check with your physician. Also seek the help of registered dietitians, athletic trainers, and qualified exercise physiologists in order to make the progress that you need.